Well, hello, and welcome to another FAQ Monday. I am your host, Fluff, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments or go on over to my Ask FM account thing, and maybe we'll get you on here. Kind of short on questions. I would appreciate some help, guys. A little bit of help here. First question. When it comes to expectations, what's something that you feel a band should know before doing a tour? Good question. I think the one most important thing that should be realized when going on any tour is that anything that can change will change, likely multiple times the day of the show. When you show up to a venue that is outside of your hometown or in another state or something like that, you're relying on multiple parties to make it happen, as it were. So someone is always dropping the ball. Most of the time, multiple people drop the ball multiple times, multiple days in a row. I mean, that's just how touring goes. Because you have the promoter to worry about. They have to communicate the correct stuff. They have to communicate your writer to the venue, the stage promoter, the bar manager, the sound guy, the door guy. All these things have to work in concert, no pun intended, to make the show happen that day. And often there are a lot of confused people running around not knowing what to do, at least in my experience with touring. So what you can do is just be as prepared as possible, pay the money and get a tour manager to handle all that stressful stuff so you can just show up and hopefully just load in and play, because it's the job of a tour manager. But just know that things will change and you have to just roll with the punches. That is the most important part. And there's no reason to get butthurt over it or angry over it or anything like that. Just things change, and they will change on a whim, and they will change with the wind. And that's okay, because that's what touring is. Do you buy CDs, MP3s, or do you try and get a hold of WAV files? Actually, I used to do the WAV file thing, and I used to collect music, and for many, many years when the digital thing was fairly new, up until recently, I had a giant hard drive with all of my music, and you know, that started when Apple Music was still heavily DRM managed and you could only use it on a certain device. They've long gotten rid of that with Apple Music, and Spotify came along. And I actually realized just maybe 4 or 5 months ago that that hard drive full of my music doesn't matter, because most of the music that I ripped onto that hard drive was poorly ripped at a poor bit quality, or you know, something from 1998 or something like that. I mean, that's how old some of my stuff is. It goes way back to the 90s. So I get better quality streaming from Spotify. And that's just the reality of how I listen to music now. So I ditched the hard drive. I don't care about the old music and stuff, because 95% of anything I had in my collection, bar some random obscure local band or something like that, everything's on Spotify, everything's in the cloud. And being able to have playlists and stuff like that on the fly is way better than manually making my own, like in the car, which isn't safe for one. But I've just found just Spotify or some kind of streaming service is the way to go. Amazon is actually a really great streaming service. I found Apple Music to be kind of cumbersome and not super great myself, although their selection is awesome. But beyond that, it wasn't super awesome, and I actually canceled it and went to Spotify, because my daughter also really likes the playlist, and that's what she liked, so I gotta do what the daughter likes, right? But yeah, if I want something, I don't know, different than a streaming service, I'll go and buy the vinyl. I'm a big vinyl fan, as you guys know, and I listen to a lot of vinyl, and if I'm a really big fan of something, I'll just go and buy the record. Hey Fluff, do you ever have to deal with brand hatred? I've been playing Dean guitar since 2007, and I still get a lot of crap about it. Yeah, brand hatred is definitely a thing. I think sometimes brands can pigeonhole themselves or create brand hatred themselves. Other times it's completely unwarranted, and I'll give a good example. I have a full endorsement. I play and love Hosa cables, and Hosa branded cables and cleaning products. And I have a Hosa patch bay in my desk that I bought many years ago that I love. And whenever I mention that, when I'm asked what cables I use, people instantly say, oh, that's the cheap brand at Guitar Center. They suck. No, they don't. They just have an inexpensive line so people can afford them. They also have some really high-end stuff, but not a lot of people know about that high-end stuff, but they can easily assume that everything is just garbage when that's absolutely not true. The best advice I could give someone experiencing brand hatred is just, man, do you, man. Whatever works for you is what matters the most. Brand hatred is absolutely a real thing, and this day and age with the internet and social media being what it is, it's really hard to get out of, you know, the hatred side if you are a brand that is experiencing or a victim of brand hatred. But unfortunately, it is a thing, but you know what? Who cares? Just use whatever you like and be happy with it. And now, Fluff reads a tweet. I bet pilots silently judge each other's landings when they fly as a passenger. My suggestion to you this week is to check out this video from Loudwire interviewing Steve Thompson, who mixed Metallica's And Justice for All. And he talks about why exactly there's no bass to be heard in the And Justice for All mix. And he tells the story about how Lars came in and was basically like, nope, turn it down. Turn it down a little bit more till you can't hear it, and then take 5 dB away from that. It's a really interesting story and interview, and he pulls no punches, and he even talks about talking about this with Lars many years later at an awards ceremony just a few years ago. And I think Lars was coked out of his mind at the time or something. I don't know, but it's still a very interesting interview indeed. I'll put the links down below in the description. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.